Yo, how's it going? This is the Noble Savages with Trayvon Burgeons.
And Josh Kane.
And we just decided to take all our notes that we worked very hard on and we put all this effort into, and we just threw them in the trash. We decided that we're just going to talk about any topic that comes to mind. It can go from horses in a pool of jello to philosophical, political ideas. And yeah, this is the ladder of our podcast here, so we're trying to get this going, try to get you sucked in and really realize what we're about and see who we are.
Speaking of horses, I tried water polo today, Trey, and my horse drowned. But bad jokes aside, yeah, it's just a random podcast, and we're just going to fire whatever's on the mind, and I'm going to let Trey kick it off because I had the first word last podcast.
All right, well, speaking of bad jokes, in math class, our teacher wanted me to look up
some
a
puns.
quote because she redid one or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah,
the
she
second
did a
one.
joke she'd already done before.
Yeah, well, when I was looking for a joke, I actually found that this is the number one joke of all time, and it's terrible. It's a woman gets on a bus with her baby. The bus driver says, "Oh, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen." The woman walks to the rear of the bus and sits down, fuming. She says to a man next to her, "The driver just insulted me." The man says, "You go up there and tell him off. Go on. I'll hold your monkey for you."
That's awful. That's the most popular joke of all time.
Yeah, dude, number one.
That's unbelievable.
But to really put that into a life experience, this is the different views of people. This is perception. Now, obviously, that woman took what he said as an insult, but maybe if she was a little bit more flexible and tried to not take everything so defensively, because we tend to do that as humans.
No, definitely.
Whenever something is being challenged that we don't believe in, we automatically take it as an offense. We get on the defensive side and we become irrational. When, okay, apparently that woman's baby was ugly.
Yeah.
If the random man thought it was a monkey. But see, like, our perceptions are just so twisted and morphed around what we want the world to be that we actually become blind.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and being defensive is a really weird way to or a bad way to come off as logical. We become angry and we let our emotions trump our reason. And when you do that, you don't allow yourself to
think straight,
to think like yourself how you should. And man, I'm still in disbelief. That's the most popular joke of all time. That was horrible. But I mean, you eat Laffy Taffy, you figure out how bad jokes can be. But yeah, I mean that's truly remarkable that such a little experience can trigger such a deep philosophical thought. And again, it's how you take things, it's how you perceive things. If you take things as insults, they'll be insults. You have to. It's how you judge. It's how you think about it. Yeah, wow, I can't believe that's the most popular joke of all time.
That's awful. But yeah, speaking of how you're saying people's perceptions are just so uninformed. Like, what we don't realize is perception is not knowledge.
No, not at all.
Just because you see something the way it is, it doesn't mean it is that way.
Yeah,
we all have different eyes. Like, it goes back to the debate of, all right, when we're born up. I mean, when we're born up.
Yeah.
When we're growing up, how is your blue the same color as my blue?
Exactly.
You're taught that this certain shade means this word. What if you see that shade differently than I see that shade? And that's how the world goes. People are, and that's why we fight, and that's why we get in these huge wars, and we have these huge just battles, mental battles, stresses. It's just we're not willing to be empathetic, as we said in our last podcast, and see the world from someone else's view.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd like to bring up that the lack of appreciation for what daily things we do. Like the fact that we are speaking right now. Basically, if I'm going to break it down for you, I am saying a series of noises, and Trey here is reading my mind literally. And you don't think of speech like that, but it's a crazy thing. And we used to be at war with the animals, and we won. But we don't realize that at one point it was a pretty close race, and here we are, and we live every day, and we don't even, think about the fact that speech is such an amazing thing. Seeing things how you see them is such an amazing thing. The ability, we are the only animal on earth to be able to imagine things, to see something happen before it can
Right.
manifest physically, and we don't even think about it. We live every day of our life thinking about what the Kardashians are doing. We're not thinking about how amazing speech itself is, and to be able to formulate an idea and to see things before they happen in our mind's eye.
And that just goes with closed-mindedness and the ego, how we take everything that we have for granted,
Exactly.
and we just keep wanting more and more. I'm not saying at all for people to be complacent. I'm
No.
just saying at least enjoy what you have. Be happy that you have what you have.
Exactly. If you don't have the ability to enjoy what you have, you will, no matter what you have, you
Yeah.
will never be happy. That's a promise, and that's the thing is I was reading earlier that we trade. I'm reading a book called Fearless Living, and we trade these things for false illusions. If I get that raise, life will be better, and we put all our faith in these illusions that just aren't true. Nobody guaranteed you your life would be amazing and you'd be happy if you got that raise, but we being able to manifest positive thinking with that would think that our lives, well, it's actually damaging thinking, but in that sense it's positive. You're thinking
Right.
of something that could happen, but you're allowing that to become your reality, when the reality is the money isn't going to make you happy. It's about what you do with your life. And when you get that raise, the problem is why we're so empty is we trade off all these full things, these things that we can put our faith in that won't fail, and that we slave for that job, and we forget about who's around us, the wife at home or whatever. And if you lose her, it doesn't matter what promotion you get, you're not going to be happy. But we put our faith in these illusions, and it's very silly.
That's I was reading a book, and that's just going nowhere at top speed. What are you driven to do? What do you think your purpose in life is? Do you really think it's to get that raise? Now, if you need that raise to provide,
Exactly.
then that's a totally different story. You're still that's your self-interest, and you need that for the people around you. But if you're just getting that raise because of pure greed, or you don't like where you're at now, that's just not the right state of mind.
Exactly.
You have to really think about the people around you and what you have. Like, I wake up every morning saying, I can't believe that there are people out there that have never seen the color blue,
Exactly.
that have never seen another human.
Mm-hmm.
They just hear sounds, or, vice versa. They just
Exactly.
hear sounds. I just think that's amazing. And then those people still have the courage to go out into this harsh world with us, with all the senses that we have.
Exactly.
It's still a terrible, tough world. Now imagine losing one of your senses, such as sight or feel or movement below your legs. I mean, below your hips. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, it would. I mean, it really brings up the point that we really don't know what we have until it's gone. I mean, if today I told you you would never be able to see again, imagine what you would go and see. Or I gave you a week, and that's how you have to live life. And I really encourage you to, like we said, we want you to get out of your comfort zone, but really take a look at everything that you have. And with the raise, we're not saying don't go for a raise. That's an amazing thing, and making more money can lead to happiness, but it's not guaranteeing it. That's what we're saying. Don't put all your faith in that. But what we're just saying is you don't need the money to be happy, and we're not saying competition is great. Competition is an amazing thing, but we're just saying don't lose sight of the little things and the great things that make you who you are, in pursuit of something that you have the illusion that it's going to make you happy, because the only thing that's going to make you happy are things that fulfill you, and fulfillment is very, very. It's hard to find anything that's fulfilling in this world right now.
And you know what? It doesn't take much to satisfy our material needs, as in object-wise and good-wise. Because I was it was almost an argument, because I was trying to be cynical towards this person. She was like, oh, it was in class, and she was doing this project, and she was like, oh, I got to get this done. And I was like, why are you doing that? And she said, to get good grades. And I was like, why do you want good grades? And eventually this escalated to get money for needs, right? And I was completely stumped, and I had to just take in that I just lost that conversation, and I was very angry almost, because I really don't have that. Really doesn't happen much,
Yeah.
or at least in my mind. But I went home and I really thought about it, and okay, I understand that you want a very good job that pays good to satisfy your needs. But you know what? You don't need a good job, and I'm not trying to destroy incentives here. I'm just trying to put this straightforward, cut right across. But you don't need a great job to satisfy your material needs. If you're whole reason for getting a job is to truly satisfy your needs, because that's what they said. They were like, I need to get money to satisfy my needs. And I was like, I didn't have anything to say because I hadn't thought about it. But now I thought about it, and I was like, well, then why don't you just drop out of school and go get a minimum wage job? And I just think that if that is truly how you want to satisfy your need, is by just, how to buy your need is just by getting the money, then why don't you have a crappy minimum wage job? No, you want to do something that you love,
Exactly.
and in turn get money.
Mhm.
Everyone loves money. Now, some people have these dream-driven journeys to life-driven journeys. Now, a dream-driven journey is, I highly promote this. It's what you exactly want to do if money were no object. Don't think about how you're going to live with the money that you get. No, you'll be happy doing what you love. Now, a life driven journey, which is totally not what I'm demoting this, and it's that you are picking your career, going through all of this education, all of this money, to do something that you don't necessarily love, but you just feel that the money is definitely worth it. Well, what's the reason of living in a life that you don't like in order to keep living in a life that you don't like? You're making money for no reason. You're making this money, you're not happy, and that's two of the leading causes to suicide is too much money. People become overwhelmed, just like lottery winners.
Exactly.
You know how many of them are actually worse off than they were before they won the lottery? And then when you're just miserable and you're not happy with anything, you don't want to live. Why do you want to keep going on living a life that you don't want to live in order to keep going on living a life that you don't want to live? You're just throwing yourself in this spiraling circle towards hell, almost.
Exactly. And Trey unknowingly just segued into a topic I just wrote down so I wouldn't forget to talk about, and it's do something that you want to put your whole heart into. If your heart's not into it, neither should you. And work is a four-letter word for a reason. It's not fun, but I mean, you can make it fun. I mean, we're not saying that you go get a job that isn't going to satisfy your needs because that's what you love. I mean, work is work, but we're saying if you're doing anything other than work, make it something that you love. I mean, a lot of people do things that their heart's not into, and if your heart's not into it, it's just not worth it. It's going to stagnate your progress, and it's just not worth your time.
And to cut you off a little bit, I'm going to let you finish, but that if you're truly doing something that you love, you will eventually, this is what Alan Watts said, you're going to hear me talk about him for years to come, but he said if you're really doing something that you truly love, you will eventually become a master at it, and the money will come to you.
Exactly.
You don't go out searching for money. Money comes to you. You don't go out searching for air. Air comes to you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But I'll let you finish.
And I had another topic I was going to bring up is a lot of, you hear a lot of successful CEOs talk about that they did it for the love and the money, the money was just an awesome side effect of that. And, truly just do things with your whole heart. And if you're not into it, I mean, you don't have to do it. That's a way to make yourself miserable, is to continue to do something that you don't like. I mean, that's the definition of insanity. And you're expecting a different outcome. I mean, change is very necessary. We've changed, we've evolved into this amazing creature we are today, and you're constantly evolving. If you can look back on the person you were yesterday and say, I made this change, that's real progress, and that's a big deal. But like we said, just do something with your whole heart. If you're not very excited, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the ignition, you're not going to follow through on it. I mean, you're going to the gym with a half heart, you're going to find the excuse. You're going to tell yourself that it's not happening today because of this, or it's not happening today because of that. And eventually, and you're doing half the work. If your heart's half into it, you're doing half the work. So save yourself the trouble and really do something that you enjoy, and don't let anybody tell you that that's not worth your time, because, like you said, if you can become a master, you can really make that something that you can live your life off of.
And I think the current educational system is they're trying to prevent that, and they don't mean to do it on purpose, just like government bills. They all have good intentions, but when you really try to interfere with the natural process of life, that's when you end up getting the opposite intentions of what you originally started with,
Exactly.
And I was just looking at the back of this book, Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, and it says, unlock your creativity in big, bold letters across the top. And that's what we have to do, even with the educational system not behind us, because like I was talking about in my last podcast, these linear methods of teaching, they're destroying your creativity. You're actually getting taught out of creativity with the influence of math and science as a main factor in your life. Math and science is not a main factor in my life. I like talking, I like philosophy, and I like reading books, so that's what I'm pursuing, while also trying to become a well-rounded individual. Like, I suck at math, but
We
I'm still
both do.
yeah, I'm still going to do it and try to better myself by knowing more math. But what we have to do is unlock our creativity, whether that comes from stealing it from someone else and making it your own, or if it's just a completely original idea. I don't really necessarily believe in the whole topic of original, but even if it is an original idea that came from the ground up, that we have to be creative to find that. It's not going to be thrown in our face.
Exactly.
And if it is, then, well, whoever threw it at you, you can give me their number, and I would like it, because I want them to throw something at me, because I would like my life to be thrown at me.
But yeah, he brings up a good point. It does take work, even if you love it. You have to power through some things that you don't like, and being well-rounded is very important. And yeah, and unlocking your creativity is a big deal, and truly getting away from people saying that it's not worth it, your time, because if you believe it, eventually it won't be worth your time, because you're making that your reality. And I did want to talk about briefly about, we were talking about earlier a couple weeks ago about how the government is a human organization that acts non-human. It's a place that it's full of men, but men who don't act like other men. If me and Trey had an apartment together and we don't pay our rent, guess what? We're not going to have a house. But if Congress doesn't make a budget, all's well. And it's pretty silly that and not to rag on the president, but he's never missed making a bracket, but he hasn't submitted a budget deadline in all 2 terms he's had.
That is ridiculous.
But nothing against him. I understand the bracket's a cool thing, and that's what you do. But back to like Congress it's an establishment of men, and it's
humans.
Yeah, a very human men that make mistakes, and you never hear about those mistakes, and that's in part due to the media not shedding light on those mistakes. But if they just came out and told us, hey, we messed up here, we messed up there, I think it would be a lot better for Americans to to see that their government's human, because it's it's full of people.
Oh man, I'm glad you transferred into the political side of things. I love that. I'm sitting over here smiling, licking my lips, waiting to talk. I'm salivating over here. But I wrote this down a little while ago, and it's, when it comes down to it, government is simply an abandonment of responsibility on the assumption that there are people other than ourselves who really know how to manage things, which is completely untrue. But the government, run ostensibly for the good of the people, becomes a self-serving corporation. That's why we don't hear about the mistakes that our political leaders make. That's because they really only care about themselves. And what ended up happening? They're trying to come up with these short-term goals to get themselves reelected or reappointed, and they're having these like drastically terrible long-term effects, because everybody's just caring about themselves. They're not really caring about the people in general, the United States of America, we the people. They're just caring about themselves and their job and their security, and which I just think is ridiculous. It's corruption. That is my definition of corruption. A government who does not sincerely care about the people. Now, I'm not saying everyone.
No, there are definitely exceptions to the rule.
Right. But I'm just saying, if the government is trying to do for themselves, then they're obviously not doing for the people.
Exactly. And the problem is like I said, they're very human. They do make mistakes. We're not saying government should be perfect, but it should be a lot better than it is now. And their job is to represent us. And like Trey says, they are not doing that properly. And the problem is that we hold them up to a higher standard. The government is not, we call it the government, the federal government. It's almost says we don't worship these people, but it's almost like we're making them deities.
Right.
We're really making them a god figure, because just of the popularity and the power that they yield. And the problem is that we, Congress is kind of a silly idea, now. And hear me out for a second. It's kind of weird to say it, but the logic behind it is fine. We used to send people when we had horses. If we lived in Tennessee and they were meeting in Ohio, they had a conference. Well, we had horses, and we couldn't get to Tennessee very fast, so we would send, let's say, John. We took John, and we said, John, this is what Tennessee says. Can you go to Ohio and preach that for us? You're our representative. Now we don't need that person, and that's what Congress started out as. And you look at what it is now; it's it's a festering pool of corruption. And the problem is that I read a stat today that was very startling. The median net worth of a congressman is
Oh my
$981,000.
gosh.
Why wouldn't you take a stab at being a congressman? I would.
Jesus.
I mean, the problem is
That's what I'm trying to pursue.
the system is set up to encourage corruption. I mean, and that's 9 times greater than the average American salary. And I'm not saying that Congress people don't deserve to be paid
But
more.
I feel like that's putting them on a pedestal. They're not living the same lives that us, the middle class or working class Americans, are living. They don't know what we need because they're not experiencing that. I'm not saying that they should be poor. They obviously have a let's say a more significant job than, let's say, a cashier at McDonald's or something. But who's to say that anyway? But anyway, I'm not gonna try to get into that. But they don't know what we need, so they look at us as if we were some starving dog that needs to be fed and we can't do things on our own. No, what you need to do is not do for us. You need to just protect our rights and let us do for ourselves. That's
exactly.
the self-incentive.
I couldn't agree more. But that's the problem is we do put them on a pedestal, and they are paid so much to do these things. And the problem is that we're so far gone in this corruption that I believe, and I'm not a pessimist, but I firmly believe that we're too far gone, that there needs to be a big change before we get back to what made us Americans. But this still is the greatest country on earth in my mind. But we need to go back to the things that made us great. And the problem is we're really relying on the government more and more. With you take state-sponsored prayer, and I'm not condoning Christianity. That's not what we're doing here on this podcast. We have no religious bias as a group. Obviously when we leave this podcast we do, but that's not here. We're very open to all ideas. What I was saying is taking all religion out, really trying to take it away from the forefront makes people more susceptible to government. And you start seeing,
and people don't realize I'm interrupting you here, but that our founding fathers had all the intention of, they believed in more of a laissez-faire type of government.
Exactly.
Our government at that time created the Constitution and they did not have the thought of themselves while they were making that. They had the thought of the general population. And that was the government that wrote. If a government wrote a new constitution today, do you know how tyrannical and terrible life would be? Like, people don't realize what our rights are. Our right, freedom of religion. And I'm going to say this just to clear the path, that our rights can be used to the farthest extent if it doesn't present a clear and present danger. But other than that, a right means that you're entitled to something. You can do what you want. That is an entitlement, is you doing what you want. And the government is slowly decreasing that right,
Mm-hmm.
They're taking away our liberty, our pursuit of happiness. They're making hard-working single moms pay for unemployment benefits that are going to millionaires and causing over $30 million in tax money that's going to millionaires. And I'm not trying to throw the millionaires in the gutter because they pay to the same programs that we do, and they obviously technically pay more cash. But I feel that if you make $1.5 million last year, I think that you will be fine for at least a year while you're pursuing a job without collecting unemployment. You have $1.5 million. Now, if you're just getting this unemployment money because, hey, I can do this is good money, well, you're taking away the money from a single mom who's barely making ends meet, that, let's say, doesn't qualify for these entitlements. And I just think, what is it, the first 3 months of your job is being sent to taxes. I'm pretty sure that's the average statistic, that 3 months of your yearly workday is being thrown into taxes. And these tax programs that don't work, they simply don't work. Now, Social Security, that was inevitable with the big baby boomers. Now, that can still be reformed, but we don't care about that. We just want to print more money and make it seem like everything's okay when we're just throwing ourselves into this rock. We're digging ourselves a deeper hole. You can go ahead.
And the problem is with the programs is, they're allowing, the program is so such a mistake that millionaires can get unemployment benefits, that they can really take advantage of the system. And it's really hard not to, if you're getting a handout, it's pretty hard not to say no to it once you have it.
Yeah.
For example, if I went every day to a random house and gave someone $20 a week, and I stopped doing it after a year, and I showed up without the money, they wouldn't say thank you for the $20. They would say, "Where's it at?"
Right,
And
right.
we're very entitled, and you are entitled to some things in this life. Your natural born rights, but we think that we're better than a lot of things, like the time that we have. That if someone's wasting our time, that's their fault. It's not true. It's like you said, what you perceive it. But the problem is that the government is not representing the people rightly. They're representing the people that they see, the people that they're around, but they're not close to the people. And I don't blame them. We have 300 million people, 50 states. We had 13 colonies when we started this. And not a lot of change has happened, and that's the problem. Is we really need to sit down and say, look at where we're at, and look at what we need to do. And don't get me wrong, the Constitution is amazing. It protects the internet. They could not see the internet coming, and they made a document that really, still allowed for such a huge thing to happen. And if our forefathers could see where we're at now, they'd be sick. Almost all of them.
They'd roll over.
Exactly. Yeah, they're rolling in their graves right now. But it's sad to see that. America isn't quite what it used to be, because we're really abandoning what makes us Americans.
Our basic liberty.
Yeah, exactly. Like putting your nose to the grindstone and really chasing what you want. And the problem is like I said, it's not that we don't have enough information. It's that we have too much. We're constantly just being
too much bombarded.
Yeah, saturation of information. We're overwhelmed, and you got to think. Like I said, I mentioned in the last podcast. We think that 50 years ago, that's when we started becoming humans, but we were humans long before that. And we're not used to this bombardment. We're not used to seeing flashing lights on TVs, and that's very new to us, and it's very overwhelming for you, and you have to really spend the time to get away from it and truly find, that inner self. And the problem is you can't find your inner self when all that stuff is going on, because that stuff is not part of truly who people are. It's a very fake thing. And I'm not saying, we all watch TV.
And in essence, your environmental stimuli is what affects your actions.
Exactly.
It affects your thoughts. I'll let you continue. I'll just throw that in.
But it's just so hard to be so bombarded with information, and it's so hard to find the truth, which is a huge reason why we're doing this podcast, because we're trying to help you really sort through all the crap and find that needle in the haystack of beautiful information that you could find. But it's don't give up hope. We're a very blessed generation. We have so much information at our fingertips. We're just saying, take everything with a grain of salt, and even what we say, we're human. We say things wrong. Don't get all your information from one source, and always entertain ideas. Trey's always really preaching, and it's a great thing, and it's very, very intelligent. He's opened my eyes to it, that you need to entertain an idea, no matter how ludicrous you think it is. That no matter how, let's say hypothetically, I became a professor in some subject. And I think that if a student had an idea that I'm better than that, I don't need to entertain that idea. Or actually, I'll give you a real world example that I know. I'm at the MMA gym where I train. It's called All Heart CrossFit and MMA in Kent. It's a very open kind of thing. You have your main coach, but if anybody has a move that they think that works, or they think that they want to try, the coach will allow them to have the floor, and that's a great thing for learning. And that's not what we do in schools. That's not what we do in churches. Nobody has the floor. And when you really allow anybody to have an idea, who are you to say that you're better than someone else's idea? We're amazing creatures. We can come up with amazing things. But if we shut out the lower, the people who we think are beneath us, that's just not true. Everybody, you can take, great things from even horrible ideas and pick them out and make them great things. But I'll let Trey elaborate, because that's really his docket that he talks about.
Oh yeah, man, I can't remember if I believe it's Aristotle who said a great man will entertain one's own ideas without believing in those ideas. And that is just huge. I was thinking about this on the drive to school. If you were born and didn't take in anyone else's ideas, you would be a complete mute. And I believe that our life as humans almost works backwards. I believe we're smarter when not necessarily more, we have more information. I believe that we're more intellectually present because we're so open to everything. We see, if you look at a baby now, their eyes are wide open. They're looking at they're taking everything in without bias, without judgment, without egos. And that's what we need to try to push forward to, which is very hard to say. I can't even do that yet to the fullest extent.
Oh yeah,
but
it's very very difficult.
I'm definitely trying, and that's what gets you to where you want to be. You have to really try at something. But if you would not have listened to anything all of your life, as like some people do now, they believe in these concrete ideas
and that they're always right.
yeah,
they
and that
can't
they're
be
always
wrong.
right. They can't be wrong, which is, and if you're not entertaining someone's ideas, then you're not experiencing the full experience of life.
Exactly.
Because life is new things being thrown at you, taken in, laughing, crying, throwing up, drinking water. Like, you have to take in these things. You can't shut anything out. If you were a baby and you said, "No, I'm not drinking water. I've never had water before. That looks disgusting," you would be dead.
Yeah, exactly. You're stifling your own growth with saying that you're not doing it. It'd be like if you had a great nutritional plate and you only tried one thing and you only stuck to that one thing, you would only get that much from it. You need a balanced diet as well as you need a balance of an informational diet. And
oh man,
you really need to. Like you said, like a baby, it's a very good example. I have a baby sister who's 11 months old, about to be 1. She doesn't take any ideas and not use those. You know what I mean? And that's how we are as humans. And we think as soon as we grow up and we have thoughts for ourselves that what we're doing is okay. And that's the problem, is we have an ego and we think that we are better than other ideas, that we're better than some thoughts. We can't entertain other ideas, and it's quite the opposite. We need to continue what we did. And like I said, you need to transform yourself every day. You need to be able to look at yourself a week ago and say, you know what, I'm a lot better person than I was, that week ago. And not to say that anybody's a bad person, but make yourself better. I mean, you truly have the potential. And we're just a blink we're just a drop in the bucket as well as time. We think, living 80 years is a crazy amount of time, but we can't perceive it. And with that, I do want to bring up a philosophical idea right quick. It's called Goodman's gruesome riddle, and basically it's Bertrand Russell had already remarked that reasoning that the future will be like the past, it can lead one astray. You have to imagine it's a good analogy is a chicken. If a chicken sees a farmer every day, select one chicken to be slaughtered. Let's say there's 1,000 chickens. The only reality that he can perceive is that the next day another chicken will be selected, and cannot fathom the possibility that he is selected, because every time another one is selected, he is not. And that's the problem with being part of reality. We can't understand reality. We're cursed by it. Being a part of it, you really can't see it, and that's why you have to be open, because part of it you can't even understand at all. And if you're not open, you got to think of what ideas we can't understand because we're part of reality. That's a lot. And then if you're not open, you're closing so much to yourself, and it's not hurting anybody else. It's hurting you. And if you're hurting the only person who can really hurt you is yourself, and you really have to work on not doing that to yourself.
And openness is vital to humanity. This is why I have a very select few of friends. I have acquaintances and people that I obviously treat with respect and politeness, but they are not in any way, shape, or form my friend. And that's because if you are not open to me, then you are not human anymore, because humans are meant to take in these ideas and portray them how they want and then give you feedback. But what's going on is that that people aren't being open, so they're not experiencing everything that life has to offer, and they're not in turn becoming a good person. No one wants to people are like, I don't know why I don't have friends, man, I'm such a nice guy. No, you're not. You're self-centered, and you're always jockeying around for to be the center of attention, and you're so close-minded. You throw out anyone's ideas that collide with yours, Jesus, that collide with yours, and you're not a likable person if you're not open and not willing to be flexible. And if you are open and if you are flexible, you can still keep that state of mind that you have, but you will have more knowledge on something else, whether you believe in it or not. And that gives you, in turn, whether it changes your mind on the topic or it gives you an even stronger belief in your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Belief,
I couldn't agree more. It's just so It's so ludicrous. It's very hard. Like I said, the perception of reality, it's hard to judge yourself because you don't see what you're doing. You're very internal. I mean, you do see and you know what's going on, but it's hard to really, monitor yourself. And you need friends around you that say, hey, look, you're messing up. This here, you're doing something wrong. And it's very hard to do. I mean, not a lot of people could say that about one another because, like I said, you can't put the ego aside. And to really live this life to its fullest, you got to put the ego down.
The ego is a false sense of self.
Exactly.
It's because of your perceptions and your closed-mindedness that you're not willing to be open to nearly anything. And that's what the ego is. It is people don't realize that knowledge is just, it's false truths. Like, if that makes any sense, it's an oxymoron. For me to say, you know what, this is a table, and when I get back tomorrow, this is still going to be a table, and it will always stay a table. What if it doesn't? What if a certain day makes this table morph into a quarter?
Yeah.
Obviously that's an extreme, and I believe that this table will stay a table, and I hope it does. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah,
but
all our equipment might fall off the table. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a quarter.
We'll just sit our equipment on a quarter.
Hopefully it's a big quarter.
Should be a $50. Jeez,
Yeah,
they could give us something. Throw us a bone.
Put it on
man.
Kennedy's forehead. But no, what Trey's saying is very, very, very in tune. It's just the color is a great way to say it. Who's to say that the color is red? Red. That color is not red. It's a word we associate with it.
With the color that we each individually see.
And my red couldn't be Trey's red. You never know.
Your red could be my blue.
Exactly. Or some made up, crazy word.
Yeah.
Maybe it's called the $50 color. You never know. But I'm just kidding. But
the Kennedy forehead.
The Kennedy forehead color. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm a big JFK fan. But as far as it goes, language, like I said, language is just such a crazy thing to think about. It just
sounds, man.
Anything, the things that you're seeing, light is hitting your eye and you're seeing images. How crazy is that?
How doctors and scientists can see that you actually perceive the image flipped, and then it gets to your brain and then it comes back unflipped.
Exactly. It's
how crazy is
it's
this
so
world?
Crazy. And I really want to talk about how amazing humans can be and how amazing each one of you are. If you're listening to this podcast, and if you're not listening to this podcast, but if you're not listening to this podcast, you don't know what I'm saying. But you're amazing. You're very individual. I mean, you're very unique, not individual. That was not good grammar at all. But you're very unique. You have these talents that make you you. And what that means is, you have a very beautiful gift that nobody can take from you, and you have happiness. Like we said, sadness is just as big as a part of happiness as it is, but you need to keep that mindset that whatever happens today, tomorrow will be greater. And if you live every moment in your life that this event, no matter how bad or how good, is leading to something better, that's what you're going to bring in, because what you project is what comes back. And you really need to live as positively as possible. And it's very hard.
Karma.
Yeah, it's very hard to say that. It's easier said than done to lead a positive life. Normally when people are telling you it's like some school counselor, it's just some broken record, but this isn't a broken record. This is a very fresh thing. I'm saying that I've been, my freshman year, my sophomore year, I was very shy. I was very different. I wasn't very confident. I wasn't, now I'm leading student sections in Batman underwear. For all those of you who know me, for those of you that don't, that sounded pretty weird, but but basically,
no, dude, doesn't everyone wear Batman underwear and run in front of crowds?
I do, it happens, but no, it's just if you knew me when I was, not a lot of people knew me back then because I was a bit of a loser, and I have no problem saying that. I was very shy. I wasn't comfortable with who I was, but it's very, you can make that transition, and it's all about the positivity. You just have to take every event in your life and say, look, and a big part of it is not worrying about things you can't control, and that's the problem. But you really need to figure out what you can't control and what you can control, because what you can control is very minimal, but it's very easy to put all that time into those minimal things. And, the ability to say, look, I can sit here and worry about it, but I'm going to waste more time worrying about it than actually going out and just getting it out of the way. And like you said, life is full of things. You have to do things you don't want to do. You're not going to live this life with perfect, happy, it's not a rainbow, meadow full of unicorns. Life can be hard, but you have to make the hard times worth doing the great times. You have to do things, even with this podcast, me and Trey have had to learn things that we don't like. I'm not very computer savvy, and we had to pick up some computer knowledge to do this. and we're gonna have to do a lot more when we, develop an app and such. But that's a very necessary thing for me to learn. I need to learn how to do that to do what I love. So do the things that you don't like, but make sure they're fueling something that you do like.
And what Josh, he preaches this a lot, and it's really had a big impact. He really preaches about how we should not give power to these complications that we cannot control. You're putting all of this energy and all of this emotion towards this thing that for one already happened, and for two that you have no power over, that already happened or is happening, and you have no power over this thing. Why not take that energy that you're giving all this power to this negative in your life and focusing on it, which is obviously keeping this implanted in your brain, this type of negativity. Take all that energy and move it forward, and move it forward based on that negativity. Don't keep going back to that negativity, but you want to base it off of that and move forward. We are not going to accomplish anything by sulking in our unaccomplishments and our like sadness in these actions that associate with that. We are creatures that move forward.
Exactly.
Imagine a dogs are like this because they don't have this self-sympathetic part of the mind that we have when we fall down, hurt our knee. We're like, the knee, what am I gonna do? Or if let's say we lose an arm.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
You know how many stages of depression people go through, go slim and get amputations. But you know what? Dogs, if a dog loses its leg due to a terrible owner, let's say he loses its leg because it got infected or something, it got bit and got infected. That dog realizes that this is how he is now and he's going to move forward. He does not feel sorry for himself. Now understand that things will get you down and you will have to cry. Like you will have to cry, you will have to feel pain, because that essentially is what makes good. But you have to keep moving forward. You can sit there and sulk in it for a day or two, but don't make it into a melancholy, depressive type of lifestyle. That's just one thing that happened. Move on. That's
exactly.
All we do, is move on.
And we're not saying that someone who has an amputated arm, we don't. That's sympathy. We can't feel empathy for that at all.
No,
but
not at all.
And that's a very hard thing. But you can also look at the people who have lost an arm and they do amazing things. Like there's some great jiu-jitsu fighters that.
Dude, the dude who lost freaking both his legs and has little metal pipes in the Olympics.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like he's crazy.
Yeah, he. Did you hear? Do you know what happened to him? That he
No.
he like murdered his girlfriend. He's in jail now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's crazy that you brought that up. Yeah, he was like this huge hero. I saw him in the Olympics, and then you see him that he's we'll talk about that later.
Dude,
but
what
yeah.
if he sharpened like?
Yeah, no, that's not. I saw a pretty funny cartoon where it says whatever his name was, it said he escapes, and the ball, the chain and ball is attached to his amputees, and they're just there, and the body's gone. And it was a pretty funny political cartoon. But no, yeah, I mean, he's a great example of overcoming, a great thing, but he's also not a very good person. And to talk about people who, and we don't know if he's guilty or not. I'm not a judge.
Yeah, we
That's
don't
not for
know
me
if
to
he's
decide.
necessarily a
but
good or bad person.
Trey didn't know he was convicted of that stuff. But to talk about, now that we're talking about court, I wanted to bring up T.J. Lane in our past podcast. It would have been perfect for Sympathy versus Empathy, but it's a good time now. What he said was very, very vile, and what he did to those families was very vile.
What exactly did he say? I didn't see this on the news. I just heard from word of mouth.
He was he was in court, and he was wearing a blue button-up shirt. And for those,
I know he ripped the shirt off.
For those of you that don't know, this is hopefully people who aren't from the area will eventually listen to this podcast, and hopefully you're listening to it now. And thank you if you are. But he shot a bunch of people, or 3 people, I think he killed, and they injured 3 more in Chardon.
And high school.
So he's he's in court, and he's wearing a blue dress shirt, and he buttons it down, and his undershirt says "Killer" written in Sharpie, and so that's one thing. And the families are really pouring their hearts out. It's their time to get some closure, and he's smirking, he's smiling, he's laughing at what they're saying. And eventually he gets a chance to speak, and you can see his lawyer trying to stop him in the video. And he gives his statement, and it's very brief. He just says, the hand that pulled the trigger on your children now masturbates to the memory of it. And then he said, he said, "F you all," and flicked them off. And and what the thing is a lot of people think it's because he's a sociopath and he doesn't feel anything. my personal belief is I like to study people who are very messed up like that. But I think he's scared. I think
Definitely.
he faces 3 life terms in prison. And I thought it was pretty ironic. I said, enjoy your 2 sentences of pain because you're going to enjoy those 3 life-term sentences you just received. He's very scared. And, when inmates were asked about what would happen to him, because inmates can see those interviews, the guy said, he'll be protected for 2 weeks by somebody, and then he's going to have to pay that debt, and we all know what that debt's going to be. And, the problem is it's hard not to get angry at someone like that, and the families composed themselves very well. They were all very close. And a woman got up there, and man, did she give me strength by what I heard her say. She said, I'll let Trey take over in a second after I'm done with this, but she just said, I'm mad at you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very angry. But after today, and she said this, I will not give you any more of my power. I will not allow you. This is a woman. This is a man, a boy who killed her son, and she had the courage to stand up and say, after today, I realize you did something awful to me, but it's my power. It's my choice to let you bother me. And she says, you have to spend the rest of your life in a jail cell. I'm going to move on. I'm going to be fine. And it's amazing to hear that. To someone to be able to not say, F you, cuss at him, you're this, and blame him. She just said, you know what, I'm not going to let you have my power. And that's such an extreme example of someone really taking control of what they got. But just wanted to talk briefly about that because it's a bit of local news and I'm sure garnered some national attention. And it's very sad that he would say something so sick.
That's crazy.
I can't even imagine how awful that is. And talk about having no remorse, not having sympathy or empathy, but having any human decency to say that to families like that. But I said,
he's not thinking sanely because of that fear. Like
it's
I said,
it's a defensive mechanism, and he didn't plead insanity. I don't think he's insane. I think his reality is very very twisted, and like I said, he's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. No parole, 3 life-term sentences, and it's very sad to see someone that young go away. But I mean, he obviously deserves it. And
I was actually on my wrestling schedule. We went to Chardon High School this year, and I went in and I was expecting almost like a sad aura, or maybe I was expecting to feel some definite emotions. I went into the school. There's not one picture, not one like memorabilia almost. I don't know if that's the correct term.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of these kids, and you know what? That's really showing that they're not going to focus on the negativity. Now, my heart goes out to everyone who has been affected by that
anyone
shooting.
Affected by that. Our hearts really do sink. I mean, even our school was very, we had assemblies, and we really do feel for that. I mean, and it's horrible, but go ahead, Trey, sorry.
But yeah, no, it's fine. But man, just how strong-willed humans can be, man.
We are amazing creatures.
Me and you have talked about a lot of the negativities and maybe the improvements that we can make, but man, we are endurable creatures.
Yeah, as much as we screw things up, we are it's still pretty awesome. And it's just crazy that we have this ability, talent code again, I'm going to bring it up, that you're going to hear it a lot, is that we have this it's crazy that how our brains work. We have the ability to learn skills, and the reason we have the ability to learn skills, it's like, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. It's our minds couldn't afford to give up space to certain skills. Like, let's say, we were all built with an innate skill. Like, Trey was ridiculously good at bow hunting, and I was ridiculously good at basketball for some reason.
Bow hunting?
But that was...
nunchuck skills.
That was a total Napoleon Dynamite, and I didn't even mean to do that. But, vote for Pedro. But I'm just kidding. But if we were all built with one innate skill, that would be very horrible. We're an adaptive species. We're talking about evolving. We're also very good at adapting. Evolving is more of a long-term thing. Adapting is immediately changing to your environment. So our brains, instead of dedicating all this space to certain skills, gave us the ability to learn skills, and the ability to learn skills on a crazy level. And I don't know if any of you have heard of myelin. It's spelled Myelin. Yeah. And this is what it is, basically. Imagine your brain as a computer wire. So it's a copper wire. You never see a copper wire. It's covered in insulation. And the insulation is what keeps the electronic pulses strong to go through it. Myelin is the rubber insulation. And your brain, your neurons in your brain are the copper wire. And as you send thoughts and energy, you're firing the neurons in your brain. And the harder that you fix your mistakes. So if you're doing a musical piece, and every time you make a mistake, you hit that mistake immediately. You don't play through the piece. You go to that mistake, fix it. 600% more myelin's being created, and it's wrapping that signal. And the more insulation you put around a wire, the less information you're going to lose from that wire. And it's crazy to think about that we have this ability. Our brain is so smart that it gave us the ability to learn skills. And I read something the other day that after going 9 days without doing something, you lose 60% of what you had. That's like working out, though. Just like with working out, if you 9 days, you lose 60%, and that's why you have to be very persistent. That's why you have to be ignited.
Yeah, that's your nervous system.
Because if you're not ignited, and that's more weightlifting than I was talking about, but it's just a random stat I had in my head. But what we're saying is your body never loses the ability to make myelin, but right now, from I'd have to say 15 to 35, I'm spitballing there. We continue to make it, but right now is the prime of your life. This is when you're trying to be open, not closed. You're trying to learn new ideas. We're not made to be closed and not to listen to ideas. But the myelin is a crazy thing because that's our ability to make a great concrete skill.
Even people in their high 70s and 80s can accomplish this.
It's harder.
Yeah, it's much more.
They
difficult.
have to work harder to do it. And the thing is it's just so incredible to think about that our brain knew that committing so much to one skill was bad, that you have the ability to make. So even if you're not great at something and you want it bad enough, and you're very ignited, go for it, because we're made to do it. And it's so crazy to think about that we can do something so amazing, and that's why we are amazing. Surgeons have hands that are just amazingly, just out of this world crazy, so precise.
Steady.
Or, you got a professional basketball player can make 100 free throws in a row, or just the smallest things are amazing. You ever watch like gymnastics, like the ability, what they can do, and people with their minds, like the math magician, his name escapes me, but we can all learn these skills, and we all have the potential to do it. It's not this upper class, mutants.
Right,
we can all do this, but you just have to tap into it, and which is why I would really like to encourage you to, if you're not very good at something, just try again. And like I said, even Sidney Crosby would fall down and practice more than anybody when he would practice, but it's because he pushed his limit. He really lived on the fringe, and he found his limit, and he pushed it continually, and that's where growth is encouraged.
I strongly recommend the guy who was talking about was the math magician. His name is Arthur Benjamin. Man, the dude is insane. He took rows of people in this presentation on TED, T-E-D, and he had a row, and there was like 5 people in the row, and he said, each of you say a number, and then they all said a number, and he was like, okay, I'm going to square that, and I'm going to show you how I do this in my head, how I do this configuring in my head. And there's, I guess, a method where you associate numbers with words, which really helps with your memory. So he was talking, he's like, 27 dropped to 3, cookie efficient, and he started going on, and I was like, man, like, that is crazy. And I looked at him like a superhero almost, but I was like, what is stopping me from doing what he did? Because I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, and I guess the guy, he practiced a form of that, because he would like tell his buddy, he'd be like, let me see that dollar, and he would memorize the sequence of numbers on it, and then 2 weeks later he would restate the number. Like, that's crazy how much we can adapt. And I'm sure he saw something that ignited him, and
exactly, and that's the ignition. We're not saying everybody go out and be a math magician.
Yeah.
And by the way,
it'd be really cool.
That would
be really cool.
Shout out to Ted. Ted's a great app. We again anything we mention at this moment is, we're not advertised by. It's just something that we find very helpful. Ted is great. Any idea, anything that you're looking for inspiration, you're just looking to learn something new, great app. You can search whatever you're looking for. And then I would recommend just going to the popular section and listening to things. And he also brought up Joe Rogan Experience, which is one of the main influences of what we do. Shout out to you, Joe, and Brian, and you guys run an awesome podcast. And hopefully you'll listen to this one day and hear this shout out. But a huge thing, and Joe has an app. You can get it on iTunes as well. It's free. But Ted and Joe Rogan, very different ideas, and you really hear a lot of vocalization. And if you appreciate me and Trey's podcast, you'll really appreciate Joe's, because they know what they're doing. They've made over like 300, and I think they're at 341 if I just checked. But they're very good.
Hey,
and
but don't go away, you greedy, unfocused people.
Yeah,
Jeez,
stay with us
here.
too. But it's very it's those are two big influences on us, and it's just so amazing. We're talking about human potential, and the thing is we're not talking about these superheroes. We're talking about you, whoever's listening to this right now, whether your name's John, whether your name's Austin, whether your name's, Jennifer,
Whether your name's Battle-Tank
if your first name's Battle-Tank,
and your last name is Destructo.
if that's the case, we're talking to you, Destructo. But if you can, you are amazing. You're very unique, and you have skills that not everyone has. And like we said, talent is very overrated. I personally don't believe in prodigies. I don't think Trey believes in prodigies either. I can't speak for him, but no, he's nodding his head. So prodigies don't exist. People who work hard do. And people who work hard, if you got somebody in whatever you're doing and you see them working harder than you, guess what? They're going to beat you. I promise. Because hard work beats talent every day, especially when talent doesn't work hard. Everybody's heard that quote, but nobody really thinks about what it means. And, the best way, I read a book one time. If you want to be good at something, find the best person that you possibly can at it and see what they do and see how they do things, whether it's online, but it'd be better to be in person. Find them, do what they do, work harder than they do, and pass them, and then pick somebody else. And that's, Trey's going to tell us about this book, because I think I just said something that was directly in what he was about to talk about.
Yeah, I was talking about this book earlier. It was Steal Like an Artist, and it's called Steal Like an Artist, and it's let me find the quote here.
But I just to keep going until Trey finds the page. Stealing like an artist, people think that you have to be completely original to be great. You don't. You have to take good parts of ideas and really make it your own and do something. Like I said, we're very encouraged by Joe's podcast, but that doesn't mean we're going to be just like him. We're going to have our own flavors. Right. We're going to do our own things. And find something that you really enjoy and someone that you really you can emulate, and then, truly make it your own. But here's the quote.
The first quote is by Picasso, and art is theft. And don't think of art as the big purple Crayola crayon drawn on the white piece of paper. No, art is anything that you can apply to your life. Art is washing the dishes. Art is, a
sweet roundhouse kick.
A sweet roundhouse kick to the carotid artery. But then it goes, this is by T.S. Eliot. I'm not quite familiar with him, but it says, immature poets imitate. Mature poets steal. Bad poets deface what they take, and good poets make it into something better, or at least something different. The good poet wields his theft into a whole of feeling which is unique, utterly different from that from which it was torn, which means he's taking a page from a book, but he's not putting it into his own book. He's taking it, he's reading it, and he's going to write his own page with just some ideas that he grabbed from that page. You don't want to imitate. You want to improvise. You want to improve things. You don't want to preach other people's beliefs. I mean, unless, of course, you're 100% believing with that. But you take that in, and then you translate it, because you don't want to be a human book. I said this in the last podcast. I feel like we're going to be going in circles here. But
well, that's because everything's connected.
Yeah,
you can't avoid it.
Exactly. But yeah,
what Trey's saying really makes me think of a quote I actually just made up in my head. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of this, but it's don't imitate, emulate. Really take what they're doing and put it at a high level in your mind, and then take the best parts of that and make it your own. But what I was going to say is, when you hear stealing and theft, you think of, it's a very negative connotation, and it should be, in any part of your life. But when we're saying steal ideas, we're not saying take exactly what they're saying and throw it down, and that's, taking someone's idea. You can take ideas and make them better. If theft truly is, taking someone's idea, then every golfer, every football player is a thief, because someone's done that before. We're not saying that. We're not saying to take things directly from people and that's your idea. We're saying to take a little bit of everything and mix it into your own, intellectual jumbo, this soup, this concoction of great ideas. And that's what breeds other great ideas. You constantly surround yourself with great ideas and great people, great things will happen. But if you constantly surround yourself with just what you don't have the means to make yourself completely a master at something. You need to learn from someone else. That's why there's such thing as an apprentice. You need to be an apprentice of knowledge, and to be an apprentice of knowledge, you need to take other thoughts. And we're about to wrap it up here.
Near 1 hour here.
We're gonna share a quote that we found mentally stimulating. This isn't in any way like a set thing, but my quote is, let me pull it up real quick. It's mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power, and that's by Lao Tzu. And really what we need to do in this life, and we've really been preaching about self-betterment, and we try to control the universe. And it's very silly to think about controlling outside events when you can't even control yourself. And I'm not saying I'm very self-controlled. We all make mistakes, and I'm very I self-control is not one of my strong suits. It's one of the things I do need to work on. But you need to be able to master yourself before you can master the universe. And that's what they say. Sun Tzu preaches, if you can master yourself, don't worry about the universe. It's just like, you do something you love, the money will follow if you become a master. But you truly have to get in touch with who you are, and really think back and really tap into who you are truly, because that's the self that's happy. The true self. There's an inner light that no one can extinguish of yours, and a lot of people will try to do it because they don't like bright things, because bright things, hurt their eyes.
Yeah, they scare them. They've never felt this power, so people try to avoid it. But go ahead.
But when you're really passionate about something, everybody feels that flame, and we really encourage you, when you feel that fire, to keep feeding it. Don't allow it to scare you. Don't allow any doubts to get into your head. Master yourself, and the universe will follow.
You know what? Because I usually come up with my homework assignments, so I hope you guys did it from last week. And if you guys are just now listening to our podcast, then you're going to click that little button, and you're going to go back to our other podcast, please. And I think that the homework should be, okay, if you come across a challenge and you realize that you did something wrong, or that something that was out of your control, and it's really affecting your emotion, I want you to literally open your mouth and laugh at it. Think about it as like a movie or a comedian act, or like a little, what are those things called where the people parody?
Yeah.
Think about it as a parody, but just laugh at yourself. That's how you become human. You realize that you make mistakes. Don't be this stiff that's walking around like a stick being rolled down the street. No, you're a human being. Laugh at yourself. That there is nothing more refreshing than saying, "Wow, geez, that was really stupid of
yeah,
me." Jeez.
Exactly. And before Trey does his quote, I'd like to say something that makes your day.
No, I already did my quote.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Something that makes your day a little bit better. I recommend, if you use Pandora, a lot of people do, to find some stand-up comedians you really like and laugh out loud, because laughter is so healthy. Like I went to a comedy show a couple weeks ago, John Caparillo in Kent, and I remember I haven't felt that good in a while, and it was just because it was an hour of just straight laughing. I mean, it's very healthy for you. It's just a little tip. You don't have to take it, but I mean, find some cool stand-up comedians and listen to it 15 minutes a day. That's what I do every night, and it really, no matter what happens in my day, if I can end it laughing, I go to bed, more relaxed. I wake up happier. It's very. But we're gonna close this one out. So keep it noble and keep it savage.